So, the new Planet of the Apes movie is out. Guess what it's called? Yep, Kong Skull Island. So, Kong Skull Island is directed by Jordan Roberts and stars Loki, Tom Hiddleston as Captain Conrad, Samuel L. Jackson as Preston Packard, and the beautiful Brie Larson as Mason Weaver. So getting right off into the story details, Kong Skull Island kind of starts off with the satellite that discovers the new island, and I say kind of because there is a flashback sequence, but I'm not going to tell you guys too much about it because I kind of want you to go in there and figure it out for yourselves. So Corey Hawkins from The Walking Dead is in this movie alongside John Goodman's character, and I forgot Corey's character name, but I believe John Goodman's character name was Bill. So these two, after discovering that island, they go to the government because of course they need money to go there, but they don't have any, so they're going to the government to try to convince them to fund their expedition so they can get there. And of course they can't go alone because who in their right mind is going to go to a mystical island by themselves? So they have to sync up with these military mofos, including characters like Samuel L. Jackson and Tom Hiddleston's character, Loki. So they all rendezvous and go to the island, and from that point it kind of turns into Jurassic Park 3. You remember Jurassic Park 3 when they were in that plane and they were just zooming over the island, and then they bumped into the Spinosaurus and then they crashed into the forest, and from there they had to journey their way through the dangers of the island looking for safe haven? Well, this movie kind of takes a similar turn in that aspect. And with that being said, dude, this movie was awesome. My favorite parts of the movie personally were the monsters, man. If you remember the interview Peter Jackson gave when he had his King Kong movie come out in 2005, you heard him say that he wanted to put more monsters and creatures into his movie, but he couldn't because the movie was already over 3 hours long by itself. And this movie filled in for him. They have so many monsters and creatures in that movie. It's so crazy, like, and all of them are different in their own unique way. Some of them look like bigger versions of the creatures we already know. And considering what some of those creatures are, that just made me like 10 times more afraid of them. Some of them look like giant animals, and then the other ones just look like complete monstrosities, and you're just looking at it like, I hope that's not real. Mommy! And as awesome as this movie was, there are some problems with it, and I am about to address them right now. Number one, the romance aspect. Look, I'm all for an attractive actor and actress getting all lovey-dovey on the big screen, but do you have to do it in every freaking movie? It's almost like directors these days think that they have to put romance in every single movie. Like whether it's horror, action, they're always like, oh, well, let's see here, let me put him and her together and we'll just focus on that right now. And yeah, it'll be fine. But it's not fine, especially not when it feels forced. And in this movie, it kind of felt forced. Like, I know sometimes in movies you need that romantic aspect, but there are other times in movies where like you really don't need it at all. And they just like kind of just shove the romance down your throat. Like, really, people, it feels like they're just trying to shove it down your throat. Like, nope, you're here, take it. Take it. Take it! There wasn't that much in there, and it shouldn't bother me as much as it does, but, like, I feel like I had to address that for future filmmakers. Now, the other thing that was bothering me is the main characters. A lot of the characters really have no value, and like you can't really get attached to them because like you don't really feel anything towards them. It felt like a bunch of them were just like expendable people. And look, people, when the supporting characters outshine the main characters, either somebody's getting nominated for an Oscar or there is a problem. There were really only two standout characters in this entire movie, and that's Samuel L. Jackson's Preston and John C. Reilly's Hank Marlowe. Those two were great in their roles. They basically stole the movie from everyone else. And Samuel L. Jackson's always been good in any movie he's been in. And in this movie, he kind of brought that vengeful feel. And on the opposite of him, John C. Reilly kind of brings that like comedy humor to it. So that was basically a good casting choice. Alright, so now let's get into the things that I loved about this film. Number one, so you remember 2014's Godzilla and how it took like half the movie just to show his face? I'm probably exaggerating. I'm probably not. But either way, you know what I'm talking about. They just kept teasing us and teasing us and teasing us to the point where when I finally did see Godzilla, I wasn't just like, oh my god, yes, there goes Godzilla! I was just like, well, finally! And when I heard that the same studio behind Godzilla was also doing Kong Skull Island, I was afraid that history was repeating itself. Fortunately, that wasn't the case though. This movie just jumped straight into it, like you barely wait any time before you actually see Kong and all his action, and that was perfect. The stylistic choices in this movie are great, like a lot of bright colors, a lot of color tones that you don't usually see in the movie, and they just pulled it off perfectly in this movie. Every battle scene was epic. Like my cheeks still hurt for how much I was smiling when I was sitting there watching it on the big screen. The great things in this movie far outweighed the bad. Like it was an awesome action epic. There were some very dull and uninteresting characters, especially the main ones, and that's kind of a big problem for me because when it's main characters, I really want to be invested in them. But in this movie, I just wasn't. Also, there is a small part in this movie when it feels like it's kind of just dragging, kind of slow paced, but it's not for long, so it's not really that bad. But this movie had awesome supporting characters, awesome action, great visual scenes, great storyline, and I'm actually gonna go back and see it again with my friends when it comes out. So, Kong Skull Island, when you see it, tell me what you thought in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for all the newest vids. And that is Troy's movie review.